Investing in property doesn't necessarily mean buying buildings. There are lots of ways you can invest in property, either directly or indirectly. If investing in a property is something you're keen to explore, either on its own or as part of a wider investment portfolio to spread the risk, you'll need to do your research, which includes watching this video, assess your finances and take the right steps. So let's get stuck in. Research your options for investing in property. Property investment can be done in a variety of ways. You might decide to buy a home or commercial property directly, or you could put money into a property investment fund. It's worth taking the time to explore your options and decide which type of property investment suits your circumstances and needs. The types of property investments you could go for include buy-to-let, property development, buying a new build off plan, investing in property abroad, real estate investment trusts and other property investment funds. Whichever type you go for, remember that investing in property can be rewarding, but it is also risky. So it's best not to invest more than you can afford to lose, should the worst happen. Before investing, you should also make sure that you've paid off any non-mortgage debts and you have an emergency fund that can cover at least 3 months of living costs in case something unexpected happens, such as losing your job. Let's go through the different investment opportunities now. Buy-to-let. You might decide to invest in a residential property that you'll let to tenants. If you're thinking of doing this, I've covered this topic plenty of times in various videos on this channel, so don't forget to check them out. Property development. If you fancy yourself as a property developer, when you buy a property to refurbish or renovate and sell on, you need to know the risks as well as the potential rewards. You can raise bridging or development finance depending on the project. Get in contact and I can point you in the right direction. Building a new build off plan. Building a new build off plan means before it's been completed by the builder. This can make you money if the value has gone up from the price agreed at the outset by the time it's finished. You can then sell it to make a profit. Plus, you may be able to add value to the property by decorating it. This can be risky, however. You haven't seen the finished property, so it might not end up how you expected. The developer could even go bust. You could run into problems selling the property and be stuck paying the mortgage until you do. The area it's built in might also not end up being the kind of neighbourhood you'd hoped it would. I've had a couple of clients fall foul of this. Investing in a property abroad. If UK property investing doesn't appeal to you, buying abroad could be worth considering. You may be able to make money by letting it to holidaymakers while also having a place to go for your own holidays when it's not being rented out. And if the property goes up in value, you could make profit when you sell it too. This has become quite popular, especially with Airbnb's existence. Real estate investment trusts, also known as REITs. Real estate investment trusts are companies that invest in property. They make most of their money from rental income. You buy shares in them to be traded in the stock market and your money is pooled with other investors to invest in property. As with other types of share, you make money from the share price going up if you sell them, although it can also go down, and dividends. REITs have to pay out 90% of their income to shareholders and get tax benefits in return, which could mean bigger payouts. Other benefits are that they're easier to invest in than buying physical property and easier to get out of because you can just sell your shares. You can also invest small amounts rather than spending tens of thousands on buying a property. Other indirect ways of investing in property include property unit trusts, property open-ended investment companies, property investment trusts, property bonds and loan notes, and shares in listed property companies, property ISAs and peer-to-peer lending. Factor in the expenses you can expect to pay. If you decide to buy a property, this comes with a range of costs including solicitor fees, estate agency fees, land registry fees, surveys, mortgage fees, stamp duty and insurance. If you're thinking about investing by buying property, make sure you look closely at the costs involved to decide whether it's worth it. Assess whether to go ahead with investing in property. Property investment is a big decision. It can drain you of your money as easily as it can give you returns. Make sure you won't be overstretching yourself by doing it and that you won't be struggling if something goes wrong with the property or its finances. You should also consider other types of investment, such as shares and pooled funds. These can also allow you to invest in property indirectly with a lower initial outlay. You'll need to be in property for the long term to increase your chances of making money, especially if you're thinking of buying rental property. Don't expect to be able to get your money out of this type of investment in a hurry. Consider the risks of investing in property. The housing market is constantly changing. Property prices go up and down, and the demand for rentals can fluctuate. And as well as market trends, there can be problems with specific homes, especially important if you're investing directly into a single property. The cladding crisis means many homes have fallen in value over the past couple of years, even though the market has soared. All that means is if you're invested in property, you have to see it as a long-term investment of at least 10 years. That way, you should be able to ride out any storms and perhaps sell when the market is good again. If you overstretch yourself and then the market dips, you might struggle financially. The best way to protect yourself is to spread the risk by having a mixture of investments, including property. Do your research thoroughly before making any decisions and consider getting independent financial advice. I can assist you if you're looking for finance. Work out whether or not you can afford to invest in property. You'll need spare cash that you can afford to lose if you're going to invest in property. For example, you may pay for a valuation on a property that turns out to be unmortgageable, or pay for search fees on a property that's part of a chain break. Calculate your income and expenditure. To make sure that you can afford the costs of investing in property, you'll need to calculate your income and outgoings in an average month to see how much you have spare. Calculate how much capital is available to you. As well as working out your disposable income, you'll also need to look at what other money you're able to invest. This will include any savings accounts, ISAs, premium bonds, and investments like shares, bonds, and unit trusts. Look at precisely how much you have and find out what interest or returns they're paying. Also check if there are any restrictions on when you can withdraw the funds. Before you decide whether to use any money to invest in property, carefully consider whether you're likely to grow your money more by doing this rather than keeping the money where it is. It's best to have a range of investments so you don't put all of your eggs in one basket. If you would need to take out a mortgage to invest in property, bear in mind that you'd need to use some of the cash for a deposit. While you can get a buy-to-let mortgage for up to 80% of the property's value, you'll get the cheapest deals with a deposit of 40% or more. Compare mortgage deals. Once you've decided you're going to buy a property to let as an investment and you know how much you would be able to pay as a deposit, you can start looking into what lenders might be prepared to lend you and how much the mortgage repayments would be each month. A lot of investors go down the interest-only route, which means less outgoings on a monthly basis, but this strategy costs more over the term of the mortgage. You can work out what the loan to value would be if you bought properties at different prices. This is the percentage of the property's value you're borrowing. So if you were buying a £200,000 property with a £150,000 mortgage and a £50,000 deposit, your loan to value would be 75%. Make sure you factor in setup fees as well as interest rates when you're comparing deals by looking at the total cost over the deal period. A lot of people make the mistake of going for the lowest interest rate, and this is a very bad idea. How much rental income will you need? To get a buy-to-let mortgage, lenders will want to know that the rental income of the property will cover the mortgage interest payments by 125% to 145%. So if your mortgage payments would be £1,000 a month, you'd need to get £1,250 to £1,450 a month in rent, depending on the lender. If you're a higher rate taxpayer, it's a good idea to speak with a tax advisor and look at a limited company buy-to-let as an option. I'm not saying this is the correct decision, which is why you need to speak to a tax advisor, as they're qualified to give you advice and I'm not. To see whether you could realistically get that kind of income from a property you're planning to buy, speak to an estate agent in the area to find out the going rate. It's hard to predict if a property will make profit in the long term. That's because the amount that you'll be able to sell it for in future depends on many factors. These include the health of the property market and how desirable the area becomes. That's why investing in property can be a risk. However, you can at least work out if the property is likely to make you a profit once you've paid the mortgage each month. Don't forget to take the cost of the maintenance, repairs and agency fees into account. Finding the right property. Finding the right property is key to buy-to-let success. I'll save this for another video, or you can contact me directly to discuss this. I've put a link to a property viewing checklist in the description. This will help you when looking for a property. Research potential tenants and areas. The type of tenant you're likely to find will depend on the kind of property you're buying and where it's located. If you go with a residential buy-to-let, make sure that you know the kind of tenant you're going for. If you want to rent to students, somewhere near college or university campuses makes sense. If you want professional tenants, go for a property with good transport links, or if you want to rent to families, look for family-friendly areas. Being near large employers, good schools, shops and other amenities can also add value to a property. Personally, I appoint a property management agency and they take care of all of this for me. Do your research. You can use property websites to find possible investment properties that might fit the bill and read more about the areas you're interested in online. It's also worth talking to a local estate agent. They'll have knowledge of the area as well as expert advice and an idea of where is up and coming as a result of local development plans and other factors. Choose a property. When you've found several properties you're interested in, ask the estate agents to show you around. Arrange further viewings for any that you're seriously considering. This is where my property viewing checklist comes in handy. Look out for any problems and decide if they're things that you're happy to pay to fix. If so, this will affect how much you decide to offer for a property. You can also get quotes for the work to help negotiate a lower price later. The next step is getting an offer accepted. Making sure your offer is accepted while getting the lowest possible price can be a fine art. Complete the purchase. Once your offer has been accepted, you'll need to go through the following steps to become an owner of the property and start renting it out. Arrange surveys. A mortgage lender will want a survey done on your property to find out about its condition, so whether it's likely to be a good investment. If any issues are uncovered, you may be able to use the survey to negotiate a reduced purchase price. I still recommend paying for one, even if you're buying cash. A RICS, which stands for Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors Home Survey Level 1, is the least detailed, while a Level 3 or RPSA, which is Residential Property Surveyors Association Building Survey, is the most comprehensive. You can also get specific RPSA buy-to-let surveys. Typically, a Level 2 survey is all you'll need. You'll also need to choose a solicitor or licensed conveyancer if you don't already have one. Word of mouth can often be the best way to find one. Get recommendations from friends and family and colleagues who've recently bought a property. Or ask me and I can recommend a solicitor for you. Arrange a mortgage. For help in picking the right buy-to-let mortgage, I will leave a link to my diary in the description. Contact me and I'll gladly assist you. Exchange contracts. Once you've had the results of the survey, all of the legal checks have been carried out by your solicitor and you've agreed a sale price, you can pay your deposit. And you can set a final completion date and exchange contracts. You'll also need to have arranged builders insurance if you've bought the property with a mortgage. Completion. Completing the sale involves transferring the rest of the funds to the seller's solicitor. You can then collect the keys. You finally own an investment property. Now you need to get it working as hard as possible for you. When should you sell the property? Once you've completed any refurbishment or renovation work that needs doing on your property, depending on your goals, you may decide to sell it straight away rather than rent it out if this will be more profitable. Think about how much you'd get for the sale of your property, how much you'd make if you rented out the property, how much you've spent on the property, your other financial commitments. You'll need to look at how much you've spent on the property so far and compare this to the amount that you'd make if you sold it now. Keep down the cost of financial products. You can improve your profit margin by keeping down the cost of financial products associated with your investment. It's worth shopping around for builders insurance each year. You could get a landlord insurance policy too. They can cover problems caused by your tenants and your liabilities as a landlord, as well as your buildings and your own contents. I work with a company that shops around for my clients so they don't have to. It's also worth making sure that you get the cheapest remortgage you can once the initial deal period ends. This is where I come in. I'm a CMAP qualified mortgage advisor and I specialise in buy-to-let mortgages. I'll put a link in the description to my diary so you can book a call with me. I found that those who enjoyed this video also enjoyed this one too, so take a look and I'll see you there.